She was mocked during a jiu-jitsu session, deemed too fragile by the smug instructor. The black belt smirked as he invited her to Spano. One predicted what came next. She forced him to submit in just 14 seconds. But this ordinary woman carried a hidden truth that would alter everything. Rebecca Morgan adjusted her brown belt in the parking lot, drawing a steady breath as she stared at the modern facade of Elite Combat Academy. The autumn sunlight bounced off the glass panels, momentarily blinding her at 38, her auburn hair tied back in a neat ponytail. She didn't resemble the stereotype of a seasoned martial artist. "This is for you, Grandpa," she murmured, touching the worn belt she'd selected for this day. Her black belt was safely left at home. 3 months earlier, Rebecca had made a promise to her dying grandfather, the man who had introduced her to jiu-jitsu at age 6, that she would work to correct the toxic mindset creeping into the sport they cherished. For 3 decades, Master James Morgan had trained her quietly, away from the competitive spotlight, eventually awarding her a black belt that few ever knew she held. "Jiu-jitsu is losing its soul, Becky," he told her, his old hands clutching hers with unexpected strength. "It's become about ego, not evolution. Promise me you'll help bring it back." Today marked her first move toward keeping that vow after hearing numerous accounts of Elite Combat Academy's hostile culture, especially toward women. Rebecca had come up with a test. She would join as a newcomer, claim to be a brown belt, and observe how she was treated. Her research had shown that the head instructor, Gabriel Torres, had a name for building champions, but through what he proudly called hard filtering. His online videos were full of sparring sessions, some verging on aggression, many crossing into cruelty. As she grabbed her gym bag from the passenger, see, the phone buzzed. A message from her best friend Sarah, camera set up in the locker room. "Good luck." Sarah, pretending to be just another member, was already inside, ready to film whatever unfolded. They didn't plan to expose anyone online. The footage would be part of a private presentation Rebecca was working on for a seminar on inclusion in combat sports. With one last glance at the faded photo of her grandfather in her wallet, Rebecca squared her stance and headed toward the building. Her pulse stayed steady. A lifetime of training had taught her how to manage her adrenaline. "This isn't about fighting or proving a point," she reminded herself. "It's about uncovering the truth." As she pushed open the heavy door, the sounds of thuds on mats, the scent of sweat and tape washed over her. She approached the front desk, where a muscular young man didn't look up from his phone. "I'm here for the advanced class," Rebecca said, her voice level but low-key. "Just moved here recently." The test had officially started. The receptionist scanned her from head to toe. "His doubt poorly hidden advanced class is for brown and black belts," he replied, his gaze lingering on her modest jai and calm demeanor. "I'm a brown belt," she answered, plainly nodding at her belt, trained for about 15 years. He raised an eyebrow but waved toward a clipboard. "Sign the waiver. Locker rooms are down the hall. Class starts in 10. Rebecca signed using her mother's maiden name, Rebecca Collins, preserving her anonymity. As she moved toward the changing rooms, she noticed the facility was top of the line mats suitable for tournaments, weights, and gear neatly organized, walls lined with medals and framed action shots. Inside the women's locker rooms, Era pretended not to recognize her, busy tying her blonde hair into a bun. In a whisper, she said, "Torres is here. Already made 2 guys sit out. Says they weren't intense enough." Rebecca changed quickly, fastening her brown belt and removing all jewelry, except a small wooden bracelet, her grandfather's gift from the day she earned her black belt. She glanced. Around, several other women were prepping, most of them muscular and wearing hardened expressions. A tall woman wearing a purple belt approached. "You knew?" "Yeah," Rebecca replied. "Just moved here, checking out the local scene." The woman introduced herself as Dana. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Just a heads up, Torres doesn't think highly of female practitioners. Unless you've won big in competitions, as we lack aggression. So be ready. Appreciate the warning, Rebecca answered, keeping her features neutral, even as a flicker of anger sparked inside when she stepped onto the mat. The mood in the room changed. The dozen or so advanced students, mostly men, looked. Her over-there expressions ranged from indifferent to skeptical. Standing at the center of the mat was a tall man with a black belt. Neatly tied around his waist, he had a small scar on his cheek and a confident stance. Gabriel Torres. He stopped mid-instruction. When he saw Rebecca bow and step forward, a sign of respect, one many of his students didn't bother with. "What do we have here?" Torres said loudly. "Ladies' self-defense is on Thursdays, sweetheart." Some students laughed. Rebecca didn't react. She bowed again. "I'm here for advanced class. Brown belt. 15 years of experience." Torres gave her a toothy grin, his eyes calculating. "Is that so? Well, let's see if you can hang. Line up by rank," he barked. The students scrambled into rows. Rebecca took her place with the brown belt. All men, all heavier than her. Sarah, tucked away in a corner, discreetly aimed her phone toward the group. "Today we're drilling triangle escapes," Torres said, his gaze sliding toward Rebecca. "I need a volunteer to demo with." His stare landed on her deliberately. "You'll do." Rebecca stepped forward, calm and quiet, using. Newcomers for demos was normal, but the gleam in Torres's eyes hinted he had something more in mind. "You claim 15 years, he said. "Where do you train?" "Morgan Jiu-Jitsu Academy," she said, honestly. Her family's Dojo. Torres frowned. "Never heard of it." "Any tournament record?" "None. My teacher believed in jiu-jitsu for personal development, not medals." Snickers spread through the class. Torres made no attempt to hide his disdain. One of those enlightenment through grappling types. "Well, we train champions here, not monks." Without warning, he dove in for a takedown. Rebecca could have countered easily, but she let it happen, sticking to her undercover plan still. Her defense was sharp. "See that?" Torres addressed the class, securing side control. A legit brown belt would have sprawled. "This is what you get when you train at shopping mall dojos." His insult stung, but she reminded herself of the mission. Rebecca performed a textbook escape, effective but not flashy. Torres looked annoyed. "Lucky scramble," he muttered, then added louder, "Let's switch it up." For 10 minutes, he escalated. The drills each moved more complex. Rebecca adapted, showing just enough to validate her rank, but always holding back. Finally, Torres stood. "This right here," he said to the class, "is why belts are meaningless these days. People wear colors they don't deserve." He extended a hand to help her up. When she took it, he pulled too hard. She stumbled slightly. "Too weak," he announced. "Some folks should stick to yoga." Rebecca's eyes flashed briefly, but she kept her composure. Everything was unfolding as expected. Her grandfather's fears were being proven in real time. Torres paired everyone for partner drills and, of course, matched her with Keith, a bulky brown belt at least 70 pounds heavier. "Don't worry," Keith said with a grin. "I'll take it easy on you." As they drilled triangle escape, stories hovered nearby. "Apply more pressure, Keith," he said. "Make sure she knows what a real triangle feels like." Keith obliged, pressing far beyond what was needed. Rebecca adjusted calmly, her technique flawless beneath the facade of effort. "Your form's off," Torres interrupted, kneeling beside them. "Let me fix it." He altered her positioning in a way that weakened the move, a subtle trap she instantly recognized. Either intentional sabotage, or he didn't understand the technique fully. "Thanks, sir," she said, feigning ignorance. Across the mat, Sarah caught her gaze, recording everything. Halfway through, Torres clapped for attention. "Let's spice it up. Round robin sparring. 30 seconds. Winner stays." Not typical for this class, but the students didn't question it. They formed a circle, buzzing with anticipation. "Collins," Torres said, pointing, You're up. Against me. A hush fell over the room. An instructor challenging a new arrival was highly unusual unless you're not feeling brave, he added. Mocking her, Rebecca stepped forward, bowed respectfully. Ready to roll, sir. Torres didn't return the bow. We start standing. Impress me. They circled. Torres moving like a man expecting to dominate. Come on, he taunted. Show me your 15 years of wisdom. Rebecca shot in for a single-leg takedown. Torres countered, with forces lamming her down with more intensity than necessary. Too weak, he declared, now controlling the top position. This is why women don't belong in upper belts, as he moved to secure a kimura, twisting her shoulder sharply. Dangerous glint flashed in his eyes. He was applying real danger to someone he believed defenseless. Rebecca had a decision to make. Proud, Rebecca made her decision in a split second. This had gone far enough. Yes, keeping her cover was important, but protecting herself and honoring what jiu-jitsu truly stood for mattered more. With a subtle shift of her hips, she created just enough space to relieve the pressure on her shoulder. Torres felt her move. He instinctively committed more, weight forward, trying to tighten the hold. Exactly what she expected. You're only making it worse for yourself, he growled through clenched teeth. Rebecca closed her eyes for just a second. She thought of her grandfather. I'm sorry. Grandpa, she whispered inside. I know this wasn't your plan, but sometimes a lesson has to be taught. And then, with one smooth, perfect motion, she executed a technical escape, a move that only her grandfather had taught, one he never shared publicly. Torres wasn't ready. He stumbled slightly, caught off balance by her sudden reversal. That 1 second was all she needed. In a blink, she transitioned from defense to offense, and before anyone could react, she had his arm, a textbook armbar, perfect position. Her legs crossed tightly over, his chest, his arm trapped. Her hips lifted to apply the pressure, the leverage, the science of jiu-jitsu. The expression on Torres's face shifted instantly, from confidence to confusion, then to fear. What the? He started to say. But she was already adjusting, already applying just enough pressure to make her point, without hurting him. The class watched in complete silence. Not a single breath, not a single sound, just the heavy air of disbelief. The man who had been mocking her was now trapped by the woman he had dismissed as just a brown belt. And time slowed. 1 second, Torres panicked. He tried to pull his arm free, using brute strength. 2 seconds. 3. 4. Rebecca stayed calm. Made small adjustments, precise, technical. Holding her ground with perfect form. 5 seconds. Let go. Torres grunted, but his voice was lower now, and there was panic in it. 6. 7. She could have ended it, could have forced the tap, but her grandfather had taught her differently. Give your opponent dignity. Give them a chance. 8 seconds. Torres twisted and thrashed, but the more he fought, the tighter her control became. 9. 10. The students around them started whispering. Eyes wide, mouths open. Dina watched from the corner, a quiet smile forming. 11 seconds. Tap, Rebecca said, softly, not as a command but as an offering. It's okay. 12. Torres's face flushed red, from effort, from shame. His eyes darted around the room. He saw them watching. 13. He made one last attempt to power out, but he knew. He knew it was over. 14. His hand slapped the mat. The sound echoed like thunder in the silence. Tap. Rebecca immediately released him, rolled away, knelt and bowed respectfully. "Thank you for the training opportunity," she said softly, and offered him a hand to help him up. The tradition of reconciliation. But Torres didn't take it. He got up on his own, adjusting his messy GI. His face was a storm of emotion, anger, shame, confusion, and beneath it all, a respect. "Lucky move," he muttered under his breath, but everyone knew the truth. Rebecca stayed kneeling, calm, respectful, while the class remained frozen. In that short moment, everything had changed. Just 14 seconds. That's all it took to crack Torres's entire persona. Then, the whispers grew louder. Rebecca stood, silent, collected. As Torres walked off the mat, tightening his belt, avoiding eye contact. "That was incredible," Keith finally said, breaking the silence. His voice was different now. No sarcasm, just genuine admiration. "Where did you learn that transition?" Before Rebecca could answer, Torres interrupted. "Back to drilling," he barked louder than needed. "Collins, take a break. You look tired, transparent." He was trying to downplay it, but no one was fooled. Rebecca simply bowed and stepped off the mat. She noticed students watching her now, but not the way they did before. There was curiosity in their eyes. Respect. Sarah came over, phone tucked away, playing it casual. "That was amazing," she said quietly. "I've never seen anyone submit him." Rebecca shrugged slightly. "He underestimated me. Happens." "That wasn't just a brown belt move," another voice said. It was Dina, watching her with a mix of suspicion and awe. "That was high-level stuff, competition level." Rebecca took a sip of water. "My grandfather taught some things. Not everyone knows." From across the mat, Torres tried to reassert control. "Partner up. Situational sparring." He looked directly at Rebecca. "Collins, since you're so confident, you can work with Jason." He pointed toward a young man, a black belt, clearly one of his favorites. Dina leaned close. "He's setting you up," she whispered. "Jason's a national champion." Rebecca nodded. "It's okay." She stepped back on the mat. Jason looked uneasy. He had seen what just happened. He wasn't sure what to expect anymore. "Start from closed guard," Torres instructed. Jason on top. "Go." What followed wasn't flashy. It was clean, precise. Jason attacked with speed and strength, but Rebecca countered everything. Her defense was flawless. No panic, no wasted motion. 5 minutes later, enough. Torres clapped, loudly. "Water break." He walked up to her, his voice low now, tense. "Who are you really?" he demanded. "No brown belt moves like that. What's your game here?" Rebecca looked him straight in the eye. "I told you. I trained with Master James Morgan." His eyes widened. James Morgan. The name hit him like a wave. "The James Morgan?" he said. She nodded once. "Yes. I'm his granddaughter." Silence. The students nearby froze, listening. The atmosphere shifted. Because while the general public might not know the name, real jiu-jitsu practitioners did. James Morgan was a legend, an American black belt from Brazil in the 60s, a technical genius, a philosopher of the art. He turned down money, fame, commercialization. He kept jiu-jitsu pure. Torres's tone softened. "He believed in jiu-jitsu as a path, not a product," Rebecca said quietly. He nodded slowly. "And the brown belt?" "My choice," she answered. "I earned my black belt 15 years ago. More whispers, more glances, Sarah still recording, catching everything. But why? Come here like this, Torres asked. The hostility was gone. Only confusion remained. Rebecca exhaled. My grandfather died 3 months ago. Her voice trembled slightly. His last wish was that I help preserve what jiu-jitsu really stands for. She gestured toward the gym. He heard stories about places like this, where new students are hazed, where women are dismissed, where strength is used to dominate, not protect. Torres stiffened. We produce champions. At what cost? She asked softly. How many students gave up because they weren't welcomed? How many women walked out because they weren't respected? How many people came here hoping to heal and left more broken? The words hung heavy. No one moved. No one argued, because the truth didn't need to shout. Rebecca turned to the class. Jiu-jitsu saved my life, she said. I came here as a test, to see how newcomers are treated, because everyone deserves a chance, not just those who look the part. Torres stared at the floor, then slowly looked up. My grandfather, he said finally, was why I started. I saw an old video of him once, the way he moved. Calm, smooth, effortless. Rebecca saw something unexpected in his eyes, regret and vulnerability. I think, he said, voice quieter now, we have a lot to talk about. 6 months later, Rebecca opened the doors to the newly renamed Morgan Elite Jiu-Jitsu. She smiled. The gym looked completely different. The walls were still lined with medals. But now there were words too. Respect, humility, excellence, community, the principles her grandfather lived by. Torres had changed. He trained with her for a week after that day, and he listened. He grew. Now his voice was different. Not loud, not aggressive, just steady. Kind. Good morning, Professor Morgan, a teenage girl called out from the corner. Rebecca waved, setting down her bag. Sarah passed by, now a full-time staff member. She was filming a series about positive martial arts gyms, and this place was now one of them. Torres stepped out of his office. Ready for the seminar? He asked, nodding toward a group of visiting instructors. Always, Rebecca said, tying her black belt. Her grandfather's name embroidered on one end, hers on the other. She glanced toward the entrance, where her grandfather's photo now hung with honor. And in her mind, she heard his voice. The true victory in jiu-jitsu isn't beating others, it's helping them rise. She bowed deeply. The real work had just begun. If this story touched your heart, remember this. True strength isn't about power, it's about lifting others. Every day, we get a chance to make someone feel seen, respected, and included. Have you ever been underestimated or seen someone judged by how they looked? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us what really matters. Where are you watching from today? And always remember, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay true to your values, even when no one else does.